Bird chair. Bird chair can only mean one thing. We're back at the Aria. Decent chance I either win or lose a lot of money today. Since we're playing PLO, maybe a little bit more likely towards the latter, but we're gonna try anyway. No ordinary PLO game. This is the 5-5-10. 5-5 with a rock. The rock is an automatic straddle that is placed in front of whoever won the previous pot. So it is a $10 chip that is encased in plastic that comes out of the pot and goes in front of the person who won the last hand. So action will start to the left of that $10 chip, aka the rock. Action proceeds as normal. Pretty big game though, this 5-5-10 PLO. Probably plays somewhere in similar size to a 10-20 no limit game. Expect hands, expect action, and expect the PLO swings to unfold today. Wish me luck, I'm gonna need it. So, you're not gonna believe this, or maybe you will, but everything I recorded that night, last night, it's now the next day. Everything I recorded from that point on yesterday, no audio. The battery on my microphone, dead. Recorded 0 audio. So out of pure dedication to the poker vlogging craft, I drove back here today, the next day, came to the exact same spot where I recorded poker hands without audio, standing in the exact same spot where I took a break to eat some pizza, to re-record these hands just for you, just out of pure dedication to the poker vlogging. Moneyline Pizza isn't even open at the moment. I was gonna get another slice. Sadly, there are no slices to be had, so poker hands. We have ourselves ace, queen, jack, 6 with nut spades, and we call a raise with it, and the cutoff calls as well. So we're going 3 ways to a flop, in which we flop the ace high flush draw. Action checks all the way through, and we see the 9 of spades on the turn. So it's not the nuts, but we have the ace high flush. I bet $35, and only the player on the button makes the call. River's an offsuit 7, so we still have the ace high flush, no potential full house, but plenty of straights available. I'm gonna go ahead and make a wager here of $125, trying to get value from other flushes and some non-believing straights. My opponent goes into the tank for a little bit, thinks for a while, and does make the call. So we win this one. If he's not raising, he doesn't have a straight flush, so we're gonna scoop this one in the early going. So yeah, things went well off the bat, but then we go card dead for a long time and run into some tough spots. In this hand, we have ace 10, 9, 6 with 3 clubs, which is good news, bad news. A, we have an ace high suit, which is always nice, but we have 3 clubs, which eliminates one of our clubs that we're gonna be drawing to try and make the nut flush. But it's a pretty connected hand. It's all the cards are connected with another one of the cards. There's no danglers, as they're known. So we call a raise and go 5 ways to a jack 8, 7 flop. So we flop the nuts here. There's 2 checks and I bet $80. There's 2 callers and we see the king of spades on the turn, which is a pretty good card since we still have the nuts here. Things are happening backdoor wise. There's flush draw on the board now and other straights that are developing in which we will not make the nuts if they come in. So after action checks over to me, I'm gonna go ahead and bet $320 this time. Only 1 caller and we see an absolute miserable card on the river. It's the 8 of spades. Pairs the board and brings in that backdoor flush. I'm gonna check it, pretty standard, and my opponent starts assembling a bet. I don't even wait though. I'm not gonna wait for the amount. I'm not gonna call any size wager here. Even if he bets small, I don't see him turning too many hands into a bluff here that he would have called both the flop and the turn with. Granted, he could have like king jack or something, but that seems a little bit optimistic and maybe adventurous on his part. So just gonna have to let this go. Pretty subpar, miserable river, as mentioned. So stuck at this point, down, but pocket aces to the rescue. We go ahead and put in a 3-bet, flop top set, down bet the flop, and then bet the turn and the river and get called on all those streets. So we get some money back, but not all of it. Still stuck, things going mediocre, but not any major swings up to this point so far. So now I'm gonna pretend that I'm eating this pizza on break and we'll report back to you just like I did last night about how this pizza was, even though I already know how it's gonna be then, but you don't, so that's what matters. seems like there's zero chance that you'll be able to read that, but it says 12:45 in the PM. You guys know goddamn well that if I look this alive, granted the sun is blaring in my eyes, but if I look this not dead, as I usually do after a poker session, you know I didn't just finish one now. It is still the next day, and I'm here to tell you how that pizza was. Overall, I'll give it a solid. Overall, I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5. Veggie slice, I would give maybe a 9 out of 10. Really enjoyed that one. The pepperoni, take it or leave it. Not quite as good as 550, but not terrible. Anyway, moving on to the poker. In this hand, we open up ace, king, king, deuce with one suit to one of the kings. There's a call behind me before the player in the big blind puts in a 3-bet. And this player has been giving absolutely infinite action tonight, especially as the night goes on. Definitely have a reasonable candidate to go ahead and 4-bet and just kind of go with. Blocking pocket aces and pocket kings would be the next best hand in poker. But it's pocket kings, and normally in PLO, I'm just gonna want to flat and take it post flop. So both options on the table, but I decided on the flat, the more standard route, I guess, maybe, not sure. But anyway, the player behind me calls. So 3 ways to a flop, which comes down queen 10 something with 2 spades. Flop a gutter to the nuts, but it's gonna connect with both a 3-bet range. So when he bets out on this flop, again, even though he's giving infinite action, I'm just gonna go ahead and fold. Not gonna go to war with this hand in this exact spot for $400. Just gonna let it go. And what's interesting is that the player behind me thinks for quite a while before folding pocket aces face up. So we sort of dodge a huge bullet there. If we go ahead and 4-bet pre-flop, it's not gonna be a good situation, and we're gonna be in pretty rough shape going with it versus the pocket aces of that guy. So kind of dodge a bullet there. I don't know what he was doing, flatting a 3-bet pre-flop. Seems like he could have easily gotten all in. But anyway, moving on. In this hand, again, pocket kings, we raise and call a 3-bet with it. Find a much better flop this time. Flop ourselves top set. Same player who's been giving infinite action puts out a C-bet, and I am going to raise. The C-bet is small, the board is wet, and we're not that deep, so we should be able to get the majority of our money in here. I go ahead and raise it. And once again, the player behind me does something interesting, puts in another raise. Happy to see it. He forces out the other player, and we are happy to get it in with the nuts on the flop in this spot. The turn is the worst card in the deck, though. It's the 9 of hearts. So it completes all the draws, and the river does not pair the board. So not looking too promising here. And sure enough, my opponent flopped a flush draw plus a wrap. So we're actually not in all that great of shape on the flop. Flops himself a monster. It's actually a little bit of a pot limit Omaha cooler. The huge draw versus the set. It's actually like a pretty frequent clash in PLO, and it doesn't work out in our favor this time, sadly. So we're stuck piles here in this game. Your man's not going to give up. I am going to give up on this angle. It's absurd bright out here. But anyway, we reload. Another yellow chip, please. Buy in for another $1,000, and pretty shortly after that, we found ourselves pocket aces. Raise it up. There's a couple calls. And the aforementioned player who's making this a pretty fun game puts in a 3-bet. Love to see it. We're gonna put in a 4-bet, somewhere around $600, folds back to that player who flat calls. So we already have over half of our stack in there, and stack to pot ratio is less than 0.5 to 1, something like that. Anyway, flop. Beautiful. Flop ourselves the nuts once again, this time less draw heavy. Checks it over to me, and with this stack size, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. Not going to get too fancy here. We could down bet it, maybe. You could bet like $250 or something like that. But anyway, with this stack size and versus this player, he's going to give us action if he happens to have anything anyway. So I stick the $550 in there, whatever it is, and my opponent folds. So $600 pre-flop, and not going to showdown. We'll take it at this point. Get a little bit of our chips back into our stack. Still a little bit in the red though. When we look down at this next hand, after many limps, we see ace, king, 10, 4. So good news, bad news once again. Our suit is nutted to the ace, but we have 3 of them, so it takes away one of the outs that we're drawing to. But people limp pretty wide in this kind of a game. In low stakes, low to mid stakes PLO, probably even in higher stakes PLO, people are going to be limping pretty wide. So I don't think it's the worst ever raise here. I raise it up to $60. The hand plays fine multi-way since we have a nut suit. We can try and flush over flush somebody, but 3 Broadway cards and suited to the ace, I'm fine with it. I go ahead and raise it up. It doesn't thin the field much. We're going 5 ways to a flop here. So it comes down king, 7, deuce with 2 hearts. Flop ourselves top pair, top kicker with a backdoor nut flush draw. Checks over to me. I'm gonna bet it. Maybe could check it since it's gonna be a little bit tricky if we face a check raise. Not sure we just want to go with it at this point, but anyway, it doesn't come to that. The small blind flat calls and everyone else folds. We add the nut flush draw on the 6 of clubs on the turn, and my opponent checks it over to me. Going to just go ahead, not in the mood to get too fancy here. I'm gonna put in a big bet to the tune of $700. I might possibly be forcing this action a little bit too much, might be trying to push it a little bit too hard, but you know, top pair, top kicker, backdoor nut flush draw. There's the heart flush draw out there available. Maybe you could turn some straight draws as well to go along with that. Just gonna bet and not fold. Not even when my opponent decides to jam all in. Probably seems a little bit unlikely that we are gonna be in a dominating spot here, but we've come to this point and we're just gonna have to call it off now that we have the nut flush draw and not that much money behind. So I go ahead and make the call. And we do not really communicate all that well with the plexiglass and stuff on how many times we're gonna run it. So it's one time, one river please, and that river is the queen of clubs. Drill it on the turn versus king 7 something something. So I'm not sure what I would have done, honestly, if my opponent check raised that flop. Maybe we see a turn card, maybe we make a conservative fold, not positive. Doesn't matter, we need these chips. This is what happened, this is how we got them. Much needed pot coming our way. Can't be that bad though. I mean, we have the ace, we have the 10, we have the clubs. How bad could it be, really? All right, in this hand, we call a raise with the ace, queen, jack 5. Once again, nutted in spades, and we once again see a multi-way flop, as you probably do in just about every pot limit Omaha hand, and the flop comes down queen high. Queen 7-3 with 2 hearts, and the player who's been giving a lot of action puts out a c-bet of 130 bucks. We've got ourselves a backdoor nut flush draw and top pair, top kicker. So let's see a turn card. I am the only one who would like to. We go heads up to a turn, which is an offsuit 5. So we make 2 pair here on this turn. My opponent puts out another wager. It's $200, so not exactly a huge bet. We don't have a super nutted hand, but we have a hand where I think we're gonna have to continue, especially versus that price. So I make the call, and the river is an offsuit 9. So there's a couple straights available, some better hands for sure out there. Possibly, but my opponent only bets 150 bucks. So for that price, I think it's gonna be pretty straightforward, never folding in this spot with this hand versus this player. I make the call. What you got, my friend? My friend has a worse 2 pair. Jack 7-5-3 is not the winner. Our hand is the winner. So we win this one and we dig out of a pretty big hole that we were in. We were down somewhere around $2,500 in this game, which is a lot of like real dollars, but in this game, maybe not the biggest hole possible, that's for sure. Anyway, we get into the game for $3,600 and we cash out of the game for $4,626 for a profit of $1,026, which, yeah, it's cool. It's cool to book a win. 4-figure wins, always nice. Can't complain about that, but I'm gonna try and put up some bigger numbers on this vlog. Let's play some bigger games, or at least aim to. Try and find some bigger swings, one way or the other. Let the chips fall where they may. That's like a poker pun used literally, I guess. I have been trying to kick these vlogs out higher frequency, a little bit more enjoyable to crank them out a little bit faster and more digestible for me. Hopefully it is for you, and if that's the case, would love it if you would click the thumbs up and the subscribe button, because it helps the channel out a ton. That's what my buddy Brad says too, so I need to be more like Brad.